Hi everyone, it's Robin and welcome back. So today I have a little craft project for you. Every year I like to make a handmade ornament for my Christmas tree to add to my collection, and this year I decided to make cute little houses. I think they turned out adorable, so I'm going to share with you how I went about making them. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So to get started, you're going to want to find yourself a template. I will link this one down below in the description box. And then you're going to want to cut the template out and trace it onto some cardboard. I am just using a plain old cereal box today, and it works perfectly. When I'm tracing the design, I like to add these little hash marks along the edges where I know I'll be folding the cardboard. This gives me a guide to score the cardboard, which makes a nicer fold. Once I had my design transferred, I used my quilt ruler and the edge of my scissors to score along my fold lines. This little step makes such a difference and gives you a nice, clean, crisp fold. Then with my scissors, I went ahead and cut out my design. Next, I went along and gently folded all the corners of the house, so it looked a little something like this. And then we're ready to glue the house together. I added a little hot glue to the tab that's included in the design, and then lined up the edges of my house, and then held it firmly until the glue firmed up. I also cut out the roof shape, folded that as well, and you can see here how it goes together. At this point, you can go ahead and paint your house, or you can do what I'm going to do and cover it in book pages. So starting with my roof piece, I added some Mod Podge to the underside of the roof and then glued it down onto some paper from a book that I picked up at the thrift store. I put the roof piece aside to allow it to dry, and then added some Mod Podge to the front section of my house, and then glued it down onto a piece of paper. I allowed the glue to set up just a little bit, and then I went ahead and trimmed off the excess paper, but as I was doing that, I added a little extra along the sides of the house to wrap around the corners so that I have nice clean corners. I then went ahead and added just a little bit of Mod Podge along the edges and then wrapped the paper around the corners of the house. Once that was done, I added Mod Podge to the back side of the house and then glued that down onto some paper and repeated the same process of trimming off the paper and then wrapping a little bit of excess around the corners. I then went ahead and covered the two small sides of the house with paper, and when trimming off the excess paper, I just made everything flush along the edges. By this time, my roof piece was completely dry, so I went ahead and removed all the excess paper around the edges. And for the roof piece, you're actually going to see from both sides, so I'm going to need to add some paper to the bottom side of this as well. So I added Mod Podge, glued it down onto another piece of paper, allowed that to set up a little bit, and then trimmed off the excess paper. Sorry for the lighting change. It is now a couple hours later. I'm finishing up my houses. So because this is going to be an ornament for my tree, I'm going to add a little hanger before I attach the roof to the house. So I'm using a needle and some embroidery floss, and I am going to add a little loop at the top of my house so that I can add an ornament hook. After pulling the embroidery floss through the roof, I adjusted the loop on the top side of the roof to be rather small, and then on the back side I added a few knots to hold it there, and then just for an extra measure I trimmed the tails a little bit and then added a little bit of hot glue to make sure that that loop isn't going anywhere. I then went ahead and added the roof onto the top of the house, which for some reason or another I did not record. But basically I just added some glue along the edges of the top of the house and then set the roof down on top of it and held it until the glue firmed up. At this point I went ahead and took some Mod Podge and I covered the whole house with a layer of that to make sure that all the paper was adhered to the cardboard base very nicely, and then to give it a protective coat as well. Off the look of the house, I decided to make a base, so I made myself a little template, and I am going to cover both sides of this with paper just like I did the roof. Once the base was ready, I placed the house on top of it to figure out where I wanted the placement to glue it down. So this will show you kind of how I added the roof as well, because I forgot to record that. So you just add a little bead of glue along the outside edges there, and then you carefully place it where you want it to be and hold it down until the glue sets up. At this point, this is what my house was looking like, and now we get to the fun part, embellishing the house. So I'm going to use this tinsel pipe cleaner, which I love to use because I think it's got a nice little vintage flair to it. So I'm going to go ahead and add a little piece along the eaves of the house. So once I had it cut to length, I added a little bit of glue down one side of the house, and then added the pipe cleaner, and then added glue to the opposite side, and repeated the process. I also added some of the tinsel pipe cleaner along the base of the house. I just worked in little sections at a time. I would do one side of the house and then place the tinsel and then work on the next side, and so on until I went all the way around the house. I also had this very small star ornament which I had picked up at Michael's a long time ago. So I decided to add that to the front and just glued that on as well. And then finally, I had some little teeny tiny bottle brush trees, which I added in the front, and I thought that looked really cute as well. I added just a few more little embellishments before I felt like I had them looking the way I wanted. I added some more of the tinsel pipe cleaner along the edges of the base, and also along the edges of the roof line. I think they turned out absolutely adorable, and I probably will make a few more, but I wanted to just get this video ready and up for you guys today. I'm just so pleased with how they turned out. They're all just a little bit different, using up the little bits and pieces that I had in my stash, and I am just so happy with them. In case you're interested in some of the other handmade ornaments I've made for this tree, last year I made these adorable peekaboo ornaments, which I will link down below in case you're interested, along with these Tart Tin ornaments that I made as well. This year's new ornaments are a great addition to my collection for my Christmas tree, and I am so pleased with how they turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed today's project, and I would love to know what you think down in the comments. I thank you once again for watching, and I will see you guys very soon in my next video. Bye now.